Yeah, so I've been here for 10 years. I came out when we started operations here in Kenya. So I came out just as an engineer helping set up some of the first parts of the factory. And we've grown quite a bit ever since. You know, Kenya is it's known to be one of the places that's friendlier for doing business, so that was definitely a driver. It's also, you know, having an East Africa hub was critical. It's where one of the biggest needs is in terms of bringing people onto clean cooking. But it was a very you know, bootstrap operation at the beginning. So probably we didn't do as much homework as, you know, somebody like a Unilever or a Coke would have done. So we really, I think when we actually arrived and started setting things up, we found that, oh wow, there were a lot of things we hadn't thought about that actually we've kind of lucked out on here. Well, our first factory was in industrial area. And it was a shared factory with some other companies, and yeah, it was chaotic. It was very chaotic. So just you know, you'd have public utilities, sewage, electricity, water, all. You could guarantee that one of them was not working at any given time. So yeah, there's just lots of challenges at that time. We moved out here in 2014 to Riru. And it's been a much smoother operation out here. So we have 3 factories. We have 2 here in Riru, Kenya, and then we have 1 in Nigeria. In total, we have around 2,700 staff today. Global production capacity is somewhere around 400,000 stoves per month. We're just about to cross 4 million. Actually, maybe this month we'll cross 4 million stoves. We were very ambitious, I'd say. Yeah, every year when I look back at what I planned the previous year, I'm like, oh man, I'm behind on what I'd planned, and yet we're still growing every year 30, 40, 50%. So we're doing very well. But you know, the goal is to provide universal access to clean cooking, and so we try to be very ambitious and pursue any avenue we can to meet that aim. So yeah, we probably 10 years ago we would have told you we'd be supplying to every country in Africa and millions of stoves a month, and yeah, but I think we're still doing pretty well at hundreds of thousands of stoves a month. I think one of the most important things we've learned is that people are really ready for clean cooking technologies. You know, I think sometimes there's a perception in the space that you know, you need to do a lot of education, a lot of behavior change, a lot of, and those things are important. You do need to do them. But what we've learned is the single most important barrier to adoption for clean cooking is just affordable access. It's just, you know, can people afford a good, clean, usable solution? When we bring people our stoves at a subsidized price using carbon, we have very few barriers to getting them onboarded onto that technology. They're ready for it. They know firsthand the harms of cooking on open fires all day, every day. They're very familiar with the health impacts of that, the economic impacts of that, and also they're also familiar with the emissions impacts of that. They feel the smoke. They know that they're cutting down trees. So people are, for the most part, are really ready for that technology, and they really want something that's, you know, extremely efficient, extremely usable, extremely durable. So with carbon finance, we've been able to actually, you know, subsidize the cost of the stoves to the end user. So for instance, in Kenya, we're able to sell our wood stove, the Jikokoa, for 500 shillings. If we were just to retail it, we would have to sell it for around 5,000 shillings. So it's just a night and day difference in the price, which enables mass market adoption. So that's all driven by carbon crediting, where through some of the carbon registries that exist, because our stoves are able to dramatically reduce greenhouse gas emissions, because they reduce heavily the amount of firewood or charcoal that needs to be used. They also, in line with that, reduce the CO2 that's produced from burning that wood or charcoal. That allows us to generate carbon credits, which represent each carbon credit represents 1 ton of CO2 avoided from being reduced, emitted into the atmosphere. So through that carbon credit market, where people are willing to pay companies like us to reduce those emissions, we've been able to use that financing and dramatically change the affordability picture for the stoves. Globally, clean cooking, we need around $150 billion every single year until 2030. to achieve universal access to clean cooking. We are currently bringing in maybe more like $100 to $200 million a year. So we're off by a factor of 100 or 1,000. We're off by a lot. So there's a really urgent need for more climate funding, more carbon funding to flow into African countries in particular. And I think we've heard that with what President Ruto and many of the other heads of state were saying. I think one of the very positive things that has come out of this African Climate Summit is we've heard more commitments to channel more of that climate funding into Africa. Yeah, we really strive to be the highest integrity player that we can, and we try to go above and beyond the basic requirements for how to run a cook stove carbon project. I think it all starts with a really good product. So we've made great efforts over the last 10 years to produce truly the very best, most efficient, most durable, most usable stoves for each context, whether it's wood, charcoal, LPG, or now electricity. And I think it all kind of starts there. Can we produce a product that's truly as efficient as possible and as usable as possible, so that it not just reduces fuel use in the lab, but it also reduces the amount of fuel used in somebody's home. So it kind of starts, it all starts there. But in addition to that, we've tried to do a lot of other things. We try to, for all of our carbon projects, we do very robust monitoring where actually we go each year and measure fuel use for 4 days in a row amongst a sample of homes to know exactly how much fuel is being reduced for our users. And with our new electric stoves that we've launched, we actually can monitor exactly how much people are using our stoves, because they're IoT enabled. So they're metered, and they tell both us and the user exactly how much electricity is being used. This answers the usage question very, very exactly. And we're proud to say that actually at the end of last year, a peer-reviewed study was published on burn stoves that found that tremendous impacts for our stoves in Kenya. When they added up all of the environmental, economic, and social impacts of our products, they found that one stove, one $40 stove, can create over $1,000 of impact in Kenya over its lifetime, both with its user and with society at large.